Good afternoon, Dr. Sharma, and welcome again to another session on mental health.
Good afternoon, Dr. Vasconcelos, and good to be back with you.
Doc, we are right now, today is July 29, 2020, and as of right now, we have close to 17 million people infected with COVID-19, and over 662,000 people have died. In the US, the numbers are extraordinary. 4.5 million people infected and over 152,000 people have died. We are dealing with a lot of negativity, and we had a previous session speaking about negativity. And the question today is, how do we combat negativity? How do we maintain our sanity in the middle of all we're dealing with?
Yes, it's a lot of pressure. It's pretty negative news that we hear constantly. Just turning the news on, there is so much grim outcomes that are happening. We hear there's a resurgence. There's talk about vaccines that are still in trial. So there's a lot of concern out there. There's some light at the end of the tunnel, but it's important to keep our eyes focused on that horizon of light and know that this too shall pass. So whilst prayer and getting guidance from our spiritual counselors will be important during this time, and it's a great force for overcoming negativity. I want to mention some of the medical maneuvers that we can also use because people get affected by negative news, by negative words, by difficult persons. We did touch on these things the last time that we talked, and I felt it's good to expand a little bit more because I see people getting hurt when individuals don't realize how their words are impacting on them. So I think it's a good opportunity for us to look at strategies for people to take when they're dealing with individuals or information that is too overwhelmingly negative. And one of the things I think we could look at is how to repel those negative persons who come with a very cynical attitude, who tend to put down people in terms of how they feel. They don't seem to know how to encourage someone in their life, and they seem to thrive on their negativity impacting negatively on that other person. I'll give you an example. I had a lovely young lady the other day in treatment who was going through a lot of emotional distress and physical feelings and headaches and so on. And when we checked it out, a lot of it came from her relationship and her marriage. And she was constantly put down, belittled. So there was nothing positive that she could find from her husband. And so we talked about how could you become better where you would not allow this negative language to take control of your emotion. And that's the point that we have to take control over our emotions. We can't change necessarily people who are so negative that they continue to be negative despite encouragement, despite people telling them that a positive way is better than a negative way. So it is for us to change in ourselves how we respond. So we do not have to let people get into our head and change how we feel. We need to keep a positive outlook all the time, always, no matter what the situation can be. No matter how hopeless it is, we can still carry a positive outlook. And that is even in the face of death that we can say, I am going forward positively, strong in my mind. I'm not going to let anything get me down. Even if it's a terrible disease, I got to take an attitude that I will fight it, I will battle against it, I will do the best I can. and get the help from all the sources that I can get help from. Positive help, and that could be spiritual help, it could be medical help, it could be help from friends and good people in our lives. So we must seek out those good people. But if we're caught in a situation where we can't, avoid hearing negativity, what can we do? So that's the point. We do not let it get to us. It can be sent as a message to us, but we can repel it. We can put up a shield and say, no, I repel this message. I don't want it. Somebody called a patient by a rude word and told her that, you are mentally unsound, and actually use a very um, belittling word by calling her, you are mad. And that's so sad for somebody to say that, because it carries a negative connotation and it creates a stigma for people who carry mental health problems. But they're often called by these belittling words, you're crazy, you're mad. Well, the word mad actually is a word that's used to describe people when they're mostly angry, you know? So I'm not sure how that got into the story of mental health problems. Why would you call somebody mad? But it's really, again, for the persons who are suffering from the abuse of others who use these negative words to them, to realize that they can just not justify what is being said, and recognize that the person who is speaking that kind of language is the person with the problem. The literature shows that persons who use these kind of demeaning terminology to people, who put people down, are bullies, and they're not well. Anybody who is bullying a person, who is demeaning an individual, is not mentally well themselves. So they may be carrying themselves, they may use this kind of language to feel good about themselves, but the fact of the matter, and there is literature to prove that, there's evidence to show that those individuals who are the bullies, who are using these terms, are the ones who actually need help. They need to change their way of thinking. That they don't understand what they're saying and how it's impacting, or maybe they know that it's impacting the person. They're choosing a victim to feel good, and by making somebody suffer, they feel better in themselves. But that is a very sick way to feel well. So one has to tell that individual that you need to get some help. I'm sorry, you need to get some help. But the person who is being belittled, they need to stand up to that person and say, "Your words don't affect me because I realize that you're the person with the problem. Because if I had a problem, I am seeking help for it. I'm working to be at my best, my emotional best, in my terms of my thinking." So, Doc, I think that's the way we need to look at persons who try to put people down, who do put people down with their negative attitudes. We need to make a change. And another point is that if we're looking at the way the media is carrying negative stories, we need to encourage the media also to have a change of their way of promoting information. That it's not always that people want to hear bad news. We do also want to hear the positive news. We want to hear the success stories. So let there be a balance in terms of how we get information, so that there can be some sense of well-being and happiness promoted by persons responsible out there. The persons who are irresponsible, we need to pray for them. We need to work constantly to say, go get some help yourself, you know? So that's where I think we need to go in terms of going forward. And if we're not learning from this COVID crisis, let us learn that, let's take that message forward, that we need to be positive about our lives, we need to value our lives, we need to cherish our lives, and we need to move forward in a positive way.
Well, Doc, it's a fantastic message for people to realize the importance of positive thinking, surrounding yourself by people who are encouragers, because the reality is there's so much negative, as you said, out there. And unfortunately, it's not only the aspect of people speaking down to a person, but having people of authority uh, leading a nation that have some serious issues, and then people many times feel they have lost hope. And it's so important for them not to give up, to know there is hope, there is help, and we can definitely reach out and seek that help and stay positive. Any final thoughts, Doc?
I think you're saying the very thing that we need to look at, which is the truth will prevail, that those persons who we look up to, who should be treating us well, who are in leadership and should show responsibility, we know that if we look at the history of mankind, truth always prevails. Good will always win over evil. It's an effort, it's a constant work in progress in a home where the leader of that home is behaving in a manner that discourages the young person from growing and who's pushing that person down, into a whole oppressiveness in the country, in the home. They all must stop. And it's hard for a young person to oppose a parent who is abusive verbally and emotionally, but if they start to think it forward, they will realize that this behavior is not right. So I think we also have to take steps now through your program in education that you're planning, and through your visits to Guyana in the future, that we can make that change in our schools, that young people can realize that this behavior by this older person that I'm so respectful of and who I so admire is not right. So we've got to know that not because a person is in a position that automatically everything they say and do is right. Sadly, it's not so. And hopefully, as we move forward, we can make that message go widely across so that our children or people as a nation know who, who is not right for us. They're able to discern the truth and not blindly follow people, as if they have no brain. We all have good brains in our head. Use it wisely.
Amen. Well, Doc, thank you so much. May God bless you and keep you safe. And until the next session, take care.
Thank you, Doc. Look forward.